morning, students. Welcome to the lecture of Real Analysis 1. Let us have a look at the concepts we have studied in the last lecture. Actually, last lecture we have seen some previous lectures we have seen what is the definition of directional derivative. And in the last lecture we have seen an example how to solve an example of a given function to check whether directional derivative exists at a given point or not. Here the first example we have taken is of this type, and it is asked to find out f dash of 0 comma u. F dash of 0 comma u means here we are interested in checking the derivative of the function at the origin, directional derivative at origin. Okay, and generally whatever is the direction u we were considering as u1 u2, we were considering this to be not equals to 0, because in a three-dimensional spaces, if u1 u2 or one of the coordinate is 0, what it is giving us? Yes, suppose this is a vector u is equal to u1 u2. If both the vectors are non-zero, it is a vector, suppose in xy plane. It is in xy plane. But if one of the vector is 0, that is if u1 is 0, the point will be along y-axis, and if u2 is 0, the point will be along x-axis. Therefore, generally we were considering this vector u to be not equal to 0, 0. That is, u1 is not 0, u2 is not 0, because at 0 the directional derivative is 0 always. Therefore, with the help of one example, we have understood how to solve, and here we have proved that as the limit of the given function do not exist, therefore the function do not have any directional derivative at the point origin. Later, we have studied the definition of partial derivative. Actually, in our previous studies, we have seen the definition of directional derivative only for the functions of two variables, having function variable x and y only. Now we will just extend the definition to the functions of n variable. You are familiar with this, but just we are repeating the definition. So the definition says that for S to be an open set in Rn and f be a real valued function defined on S, then we want to find out the partial derivative along kth vector or along kth variable, which actually gives us the rate of change of the given function along kth coordinate axis. Therefore, here the 2 points were taken x and c. Here the kth coordinate was specifically mentioned. This is an n-tuple vector x1 to xn. Similarly, c is a fixed point having n-tuple vector again. These are the 2 points. Now, what the condition we have imposed? Xi is equal to ci for I not equals to k, and xk is not equals to ck only for I equals to k. That is, there is a change in kth coordinate of the 2 points, and all the rest coordinates are same. Means the change is going to be observed along kth coordinate axis only, and whatever is the change along kth coordinate axis, correspondingly you will find the increment ratio. That is, with respect to the change in the kth variable, we will observe what will be the change in the corresponding function. We will construct the increment ratio, and the limiting value will be obviously that difference is tending to 0. That is, xk minus ck is tending to 0, which one can write as xk tends to ck. And this is a derivative of a given function with respect to kth coordinate. With respect to kth coordinate, and the symbol we were using is dou f by dou xk at the point C, or fkc, or dkfc. In this unit, we were using this symbol for the partial derivative, dk f at the point C. Okay, this is what we have just seen for the functions of two variables. Okay, and the definition are exactly same. Later, we have written a remark. The definition of directional derivative is meaningful if u is equals to 0. Let us check what will happen if we put the direction u is equal to 0 in the definition of directional derivative itself. The definition is f dash of c comma u. Yes, what is the definition? F dash of c comma u limit h tends to 0 f of c plus hu minus f of c divided by h. And let us put value of u is equal to 0, and here we can easily observe that this value is 0. That is, directional derivative at the point in the direction origin exists and is always 0 irrespective of the given function. This may be a question for your objective as well. Next, what we have seen is we know the unit standard basis for the given function of n-dimensional spaces. What is the standard basis we were writing? u1, u2 up to un. Right now, what is u1? u1 is 1 at unit place, unit at one's place and rest 0. What is u2? Unit at second's place and all rest 0. Okay, likewise, what will be UK? UK will be unit at kth place, all rest is 0. And this is whatever is this UK we were considering. If I restrict this to be a direction of a directional derivative, then this will give us the partial derivative along kth coordinate axis and is denoted by dkfc. That is, if I restrict the direction along kth coordinate axis, then this will be the derivative with respect to kth variable. Later, if the function is vector valued many variable, that is f is a function of the type Rn to Rm, say multivariable, multi-valued, that is vector value. Therefore, here in this case, one can say that the directional derivative of capital F exists if and only if directional derivative of every coordinate function exists. Directional derivative of every coordinate function is going to exist. That's why we were writing the directional derivative f dash of c comma u to be f1 dash comma f2 dash up to fm dash. Right? For in particular, when u is equals to uk, if we put, then this directional derivative converted to partial derivative, the directional derivative will become partial derivative. The symbol we were using is dk. So the dkf at the point C is dkf1, dkf2, and so on. Later, we have moved to understand the relation between directional derivative and continuity. The first result we have seen is whenever the directional derivative exists in every direction u, then we say that all partial derivatives exist, but converse is not. Why directional derivative, existence of directional derivative gives us the existence of partial derivative? Because we have seen the fact that partial derivatives is the particular case of the directional derivative. If we put the direction to be along the coordinate axis, then directional derivative becomes the partial derivative. Therefore, existence of directional derivative obviously gives us the existence of partial derivative, but converse not true. That is, if all partial derivatives exist, then it doesn't mean that the directional derivative are going to exist. For this, we have taken one example. The directional derivative we have checked out, sorry, the partial derivatives we had checked out at the point origin, that is 0, 0. Partial derivative d1 xy at the point 0, 0 is 1, d2 fx at the point 0, 0 is 1, means both partial derivatives exist. We had checked out at the same point, we had checked out the directional derivative, but here we can observe that limit do not exist, hence directional derivative do not exist. I hope there is no problem up to this point. Okay, let me move to the next relation. Now we were going to discuss whether directional derivative gives us the continuity of the function, because this was an extension carried out in order to remove the drawback, because we know the fact that partial derivative at existence of partial derivative at a point do not gives us the continuity. Now let us check whether the directional derivative gives us the continuity. Now we are going to claim that though the directional derivative exists at a given point, then it fails to be continuous. Fails to be continuous. Let me write this statement. A function can have finite directional derivative What is this notation we were using? F dash C semicolon U. Right? The meaning is directional derivative at the point C in the direction U for every U. But may fail to be continuous at T. it is not assured that whether the though the directional derivative exists, then continuity is observed. It's not guaranteedly observed. For this, let us take one example to show that though the directional derivative exists, but the function is not continuous. Right? Let us start with one example. Okay, let me write an example, counter example one can call. Therefore, this function is defined as f of xy is equal to x square y upon x raised to 4 plus y square for xy to be not equals to origin, and the function is defined to be 0 for xy equal to 0, 0, that is origin. Now what the job we will do? First we will check whether the directional derivative at some point for the given function exists. For the sake of convenience, we will check the directional derivative at 0, 0. Let us check directional derivative of given function at 0, 0. At 0, 0. Okay. Now here we are going to show directional derivative exists, but function is not continuous at 0, 0. Okay. Now let me start for checking the function. What is my c? C is 0, 0. Okay. What is u? Direction. We are taking this to be u1, u2. Therefore, shall I write directly what is f dash of c comma u? Limit h tends to 0. Let me write the definition first. This is f of c plus hu minus f of c divided by h. Right. Now let me write f dash of 0 comma u. What is f dash of 0 comma u? Limit h tends to 0. Limit h tends to 0. Okay. Therefore, is it f of 0 plus hu minus f of 0 divided by h. Now let me write in terms of coordinates. Is it f of, what is the coordinate of hu vector? Is it hu1 and hu2 minus f of 0 comma 0, everything is divided by h. Okay, what is the function? X square y x raised to 4 plus y. Now here what we were considering the function, two types of function, for xy not equal to 0 and for xy equal to 0, 0. Let me check. Now as we are claiming u1 u2 is not equal to 0, 0, we were going to use the first definition of the given function. Let me take this 1 by h out. Okay, what the function says, x square y upon x raised to 4 plus y square. So let me write, is it h u1 bracket square x square into y h u2 upon x raised to 4, h u1 bracket raised to 4 plus h u2 bracket square minus, what is value of f at 0, 0? F at 0, 0 is given to be 0, 0. Let us just simplify. What we will do, we will try to take h square common, or one can cancel this h first. Okay, let it be h cube u1 square u2 divided by, from this if I take h square common, what v remains with h square u1 raised to 4 plus this h square we have taken already common, this is u2 square. Okay, now this h cube upon denominator h cube will get cancelled and we remain with limit h tends to 0 u1 square upon u2 upon h square u1 raised to 4 plus u2 square. Now let me put limit h tends to 0. If I put limit h tends to 0, this term becomes 0 and we left with u1 square upon u2 upon u2 square. Now what the fact we know, u1 not equals to 0, u2 not equals to 0. Therefore what one can have an assumption, whether limit exists or not. whether limit exists or not in this case.
Yes, ma'am. Limit exists.
Yes, limit exists. What does it mean? Huh? The limit f dash 0 comma u exists. What does it mean? The function have directional derivative, right? This implies directional derivative exists at a point at a point 0, 0. Is it fine? Now we will check continuity at the same point. Let us check continuity. Let us check continuity at the same point 0, 0. Now how I told you to check the continuity, let me just recall that definition. Okay, here only I will write. It's not going on. Now what is the definition? Limit xy tends to a b for the functions of two variable, no? This is f of xy must be equal to f of ab. Geometrical interpretation, I told you that in a three-dimensional space, whatever is your surface like this is f of xy, right? This is x, y, and z. What I suppose at this point AB, if I want to check, AB means it is actually AB is 0. Therefore, at this point, if I want to check, then as this limit suggests, limit xy tends to AB in all possible directions. Now, actually, this comes with a neighborhood. That is, the point xy can reach to AB along all possible paths towards AB. Therefore, in order to check this continuity, we will we will just find out whether the limit exists for this function xy and whether the value is equal to f of AB along the respective path. Okay. Now let us check. Okay. Now let me select path to reach towards the point. Okay. What is the function defined here? Let me just rewrite the function x square y upon x raised to 4 plus y square for xy not equal to 0, 0, and this is 0 for xy equals to 0, right? Therefore, what is f of 0, 0? At point 0, 0 we were checking. Na? Therefore, what kind of limit I should find? Xy tends to 0, 0. Okay. Here let us check or let us find the limiting value. Let us find the limiting value of function by taking xy tends to 0, 0 by the path. Let me take a path y equal to mx. See, what this path is actually, what this represents, y equal to mx. At this point origin we were checking, no? In two-dimensional plane xy, we have to check. In two-dimensional plane y equal to mx, whether y equal to mx is a straight line passing through origin or not? Yes, students. Along the path we want to check. That is, we will follow all the paths which are going towards the point 0. First arbitrary path I have selected to be along this straight line in a two-dimensional plane, along this line, right? Whether the point origin lies on the line or not. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
You are not giving me the answer. I thought I am not audible. Y equal to mx हा path origin मधून जातो का एवढंच विचारलं. Whether the
Yes,
point.
ma'am.
Yes, it is. Therefore, we can select this path to check the continuity, right? Right? Therefore, we will follow the path and we will check this limit. Limit xy tends to limit xy tends to 0, 0 for the function f of xy. And if the value is equal to f of 0, 0, this is continuous. If it is not, it is not continuous. Right? What path we have selected? Let me write the function first. X square y upon x raised to 4 plus y square. Let us put the path now. Limit xy tends to 0, 0. Y equal to mx is the path I am selecting. Therefore, let me put the value y equal to mx. This is m square x square. Okay. And if I put y equal to xy tends to 0, that is x tends to 0, what will be the effect? Now one can write this as xy. If x tends to 0, what about mx?
It will also tends to 0, ma'am.
Yes, it will also tend to 0. Therefore, let us just substitute the value of x at 0 and let us find out whether the limit exists. Let us check the value of, let us put the value of x as 0. Let us put, instead of putting mx 0, now we are putting x equal to 0. Because if mx tends to 0, it doesn't mean that m tends to 0. Right now x tends to 0. Therefore m may or may not be 0. Right? Therefore let me put x tends to 0. What will happen? Numerator 0, denominator 0. Oh sorry. I have to make simplifications. No. What are the simplification? Let me take x square common and cancel. Therefore we remain with. This is x square plus m square. Correct, na? Now let me put the limit x tends to 0. Numerator is 0, denominator x is 0 plus m square. Therefore, what is the value? Is it 0? And if it is 0, it is equal to f of 0, 0. Therefore, what we have proved? Limit xy tends to 0, 0. F of xy is equal to f of 0, 0. But along the path. Along which path? Y equal to mx. But is it the only path to reach towards a point 0? No, there are many paths as we have discussed. Therefore, let me check the same limitation with respect to another path. Let me write number 2 for here. Okay. Now let us check the limit along another path. Now I select a parabola along a path y equal to x square. Whether parabola contains this origin or not?
Yes, ma'am, it contains.
Yes. Here I'll just draw the sketch. Somewhat like this straight line is the path we have selected. Now we were selecting a path like a parabola. While selecting a path, you should be very careful that curve should pass through that given point. Okay? Now whether this, now as we have discussed, this parabola is through the origin. Because if I put 0, 0, here it satisfies. Therefore, let us change the path and find out the limiting value. Consider limit xy tends to 0, 0, f of xy. What is f of xy? This is x square y upon x raised to 4 plus y square. No doubt x, y tends to 0, 0. Now which path we have selected? Y equal to x square. Therefore let me put x square tends to 0, 0. Therefore here I put y equal to x square and let us observe. What is the limiting value? Numerator is x raised to 4, denominator is x raised to 4. If I just cancel this, what we remain with? X raised to 4 upon 2x raised to 4. Is it half only? Yes or no? And what is the
Yes, ma'am.
limiting value?
Yes, ma'am.
Half. Right? But whether this half is equal to f of 0, 0?
No,
No,
ma'am.
this is not equal to f of 0, 0. But what we have observed, along a path, straight line, the limiting value is equal to the actual value. But if we change the path, the value are not same. Therefore, the function is not continuous. Along the path y equal to x square. Therefore, instead of checking only one along one path, we cannot say directly the function is continuous. We have to check all the path. As in two-dimensional spaces, we were checking two limits. No, limit x tends to c plus and c minus likewise. Okay, thus the function is not continuous at 0, 0. But what we have proved actually, the function has directional derivative at 0, 0, but it is not continuous. That's why we are claiming the result. What is the result? A function can have finite directional derivatives for every direction, but may fail to be continuous. And here we have generated one counter example for the same. Is it okay or any doubt with this?
No, ma'am.
Whenever an ordinary derivative was extended to partial derivatives for the functions of many variables, partial derivative fails to give the continuity. That's why there is a need to find out a new derivative called as directional derivative, and we have checked out that the directional derivatives are also not giving us the continuity. Therefore, there is a need of one more extension of the given derivative, and the concept was defined with total derivative. The concept was defined to be total derivative. Correct now? I think you are familiar with the concept of total derivative of functions of two variables, right? How you are finding the total derivative of a function of two variables? This is the f of x, y, say. df you are finding now.
Yes, ma'am.
What is this value? How to find out the total derivative?
Dou f by
Dou
dou
f by
x
dou
into
x into
dx
dx
plus
plus
dou
dou
f
f
by
by
dou
dou
y
y into
into
dy.
dy.
Hmm, good. This is the total derivative we have defined. Okay. Now we are going to see some another approach of total derivative. The approach used in this syllabus is with the help of Taylor's formula. Okay. Whether all of you are remembering Taylor's formula to find out the function value given to the near to the given point. Anyone is remembering Taylor's formula series? Okay, now we will going to have total derivative. But this total derivative was defined by knowing the fact that the ordinary derivative, that is the derivative of the functions of one variable, is satisfying the criteria of continuity. That is, if ordinary derivative exists at a given point, then the function is continuous. Then we will try to make use of the same point by using the Taylor's formula, because this was a satisfactory derivative. Ordinary derivative is called as a satisfactory definition of derivative, which gives us the continuity. But whatever partial derivative and directional derivatives are defined are not giving us the continuity at the given point. So for just to use that one variable concept, we are going to make use of the Taylor's formula. Taylor's formula in one dimensional case. All of you are remembering Taylor's formula, finding the value of a function given to finding the value of the function near to a given point. in one-dimensional case, a function f with a derivative at c at this point, if the derivative exists, can be approximated near c. That is, if the value of a function and its derivative at this point is known to us, we can find out the value of a function near to this point, near c by a linear polynomial. Let me show you how. Okay, we know the Taylor's formula, a Taylor series. What is a Taylor series? F of c plus h is equal to. I hope you are knowing this. Is it f of c plus h f dash of c plus h square upon 2 factorial f double dash of c h cube upon 3 factorial f triple dash at the point c and so on. Whether you are familiar with this formula or not?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Now in this formula, which derivative was used? This is the function of one variable, one dimension case I have written only. That is the function of one variable, f of x only. Then if the value of a function and the derivative at c is known to us, that is f of c known to us, f dash of c, f double dash of c, all these are known to us, we can find out the value of a function near to c. That is f of c plus h. F of c plus h. Now with the help of this one, we are going to define the total derivative of functions of many variable. How? Let me check. Okay. Now in this statement, what we will try to do is, we will just put the first two terms as it is, h f of c. Okay. And from the remaining terms, let me take h common. What remains with us? If I take h common, this is h upon 2 factorial f double dash of c, h square upon 3 factorial f triple dash of c, and so on. Okay, whatever is this remaining term, we will call this term to be an error term, say. To be an error term, and I will denote this by ECH. Error at the point C due to this increment h. Error at the point C due to this increment h, because we want to find out f of c plus h. No? Okay. Okay. Then what do you think? What will be my error value? What is error value? Is it f of c plus h? This is the fresh series. Let us take h common from the two. Let me go stepwise. Let me write stepwise. Let me take h common from the two terms. Okay. Then f of c plus h minus f of c divided by h. Okay. And what is this error then? Let me just subtract f dash of c from both the sides, and this is my error value. This is the error value. EC of h is f of c plus h minus f of c divided by h minus f dash of c. But this is defined only for h not equals to 0. Only for h not equals to 0. And what we will take? We will take error at the point 0 is 0. Why error due to h is 0? Because we are interested in finding the value of f of c plus h. And if h is equal to 0, is there any need to find the value? There is no increment. No? F of c is already known to us. If f of c is already known to us, there is no point arises to find out the error. Therefore, error is 0 if h is 0. and let I will copy. And let error is 0 for h is 0. Is it okay to everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now here look at this statement. Look at this statement. If hf dash of c error. Now whatever is this hf dash of c, we will observe this to be a linear function. How it is linear I will tell you. Similarly, whatever is this error will tend to 0 as h tends to 0. While check if h is tending to 0, first is h into this term. This is the second order derivative. If h is smaller, what about h square? Still smaller. Next term is h cube, will be still smaller. Therefore, whenever h is tending to 0, this error term is tending to 0. Okay, therefore, whatever is this called as, let me write this as statement number 2. This is called as first order Taylor's formula. First order Taylor's formula for approximating f of c plus h minus f of c by h f dash of c with an error of h ec of h. And the, or one can say the error committed is this much. Okay, let me write equation 2 is called Taylor's formula. Taylor's formula for approximating f of c plus h minus f of c by f dash of c dot h, comma, the error committed is what is the error committed? H into EC of H. H into EC. In short, one can say this formula helps us to find out the value of a function near to C with the help of hf dash of C. That is derivative where the error is this term. Therefore, one can say this is the linear formula. Here we have written now. By a linear polynomial, value of the function near to C can be approximated by a linear formula. This is the linear one. This is totally by using the ordinary derivative. Now what we will do? We will try to generalize the same for the functions of many variable. Before that, we will just observe the two properties by the two terms. First term and second term. Okay, let me write the two properties. Let me write the next line. Property of statement number 2. Okay, what is the first property? Whatever is this quantity, we were writing hf dash of c, quantity f dash of c dot h is linear function of h. This is the linear function of h. Let us check how it is the linear function. Time being, what we will write, this is, we are saying this is a function of h. Okay, so let me write it in a standard form of the function. If we write Tc of h has f dash of c dot h. This is linear function of h, therefore I have written some function of h. T stands for total derivative found at the point C. Therefore, this symbol we will use Tc of h as f dash of c into h. Then, what is Tc of h1 plus bh2? This is f dash of c into ah1 plus bh2. Simple multiplication to follow. A into f dash of c into h1 plus b into f dash of c into h2. Therefore, this first term gives me Tc at the point h1. B as it is. Second term gives me Tc at the point h2. Therefore, here we can observe very easily that this is a linear function. Tch is a linear function. Okay. What is property number 2? The error term HECH is of smaller order, is of smaller order than H, than H, as H tends to 0, or one can write HECH tends to 0 as H tends to 0. And I have told you already why error term tends to 0 as H tends to 0. Therefore, whatever is this formula number 2, whatever is this formula number 2, we will use the same statement number 2 in order to write the total derivative of the functions of many variables. This is for the function of one variable, remember. Go to write, let me just make a box here. Same we are going to follow. Total derivative function of one variable we will extend to the total derivative function of many variables. Okay. For which type of functions? Functions of Rn to Rm type. Functions of Rn to Rm type. Okay. So here I will write the total derivative of a function f from Rn to Rm will now be defined as not as in such a way that it preserves these two properties, the above these two above properties. Okay, now let me check. Let me tell you how it is being defined. Okay, now what I'll do, I'll just write that equation number 2 here and we'll try to understand. Equation number 2 is f of c plus h equal to f of c plus h dash of c plus h e c h. This is in one dimensional case. Now we were going to deal with function S, function f, which is the subset of Rn space C. F is defined as yes, S is a subset of Rn space. Suppose I want to define the total derivative of this point. Total derivative at this point. The first point we have to do is we have to consider this C to be an interior point. Why there is a need to consider C to be an interior point, we have discussed in directional derivative. Because to ensure that C and its neighboring point both are in the domain S of the given function. Because C is an interior point, therefore this ball BCR is in the domain. BCR is in the domain. Now we have to select a point, another point, say V in Rn, V in Rn such that norm B is less than R. Norm B is less than R. Okay, what will happen if norm V is less than R? May I say this V will lie somewhere in the point itself, right now? Okay, so this is the point C plus V. Now what we will do? We will join C to C plus V. We will join C to C plus V. That is joining or drawing a straight line passing through C towards the direction V, that is parallel to V. And we know the 2 points will be calculated as C and C plus V. What is the distance between the 2 points? the distance between 2 points C and C plus V is. We were calculating distance with a norm generally, okay, in an n-dimensional spaces. Therefore, this is norm C plus V minus C is equal to norm V, but norm V we were taking this to be less than R. Therefore, distance between C and C plus V is less than R. Therefore, it ensures that the point C plus V is in the ball is in the domain. Therefore, both the points C and C plus V are in S. Is everyone getting me? C is an interior point we have selected. The vector V in Rn space is selected such that norm be less than R. Okay. Why norm V should be less than R? Because to ensure that the 2 points C and C plus V are in the ball is in the domain. Therefore, both the points are in the domain now. Both the points will be in the domain now. Now let us define. Just extend. Instead of C, C plus H, we will write C and C plus V. What will be a definition then? F of C plus V, correct now? Instead of C, C plus H. Whenever we are on a two-dimensional line or on a line, C and C plus H are the two neighboring points of the domain of the given function. Here we have ensured that C and the C plus V are the points in the domain S of a function. Here I will write S contained in R. Right? Therefore, just write f of C instead of C plus H, it is f of C as it is. Okay. H applies of C we will denote it with TC of V. Correct now? Here we have written TC of H because it is depending on H. Now this depends on EV. Therefore, this is H and this is TC of V. What about this error? H is the numerical value of your increment. What is the numerical value of this vector length? Is given with norm V. Okay. And error. Now this error depends on V. Same statement I have written in an n-dimensional space. What is the change only? Instead of getting C and C plus H are on a line, here we are getting in an n-dimensional ball of the n-dimensional subset of the given domain. Is it clear to everyone? Same statement. And this is what a definition of total derivative. Okay. Here I will just write. Let f is a function defined from S to Rm. B a function defined on S. Let C be an interior point of S and BCR be n ball. What is n ball? This here is n ball lying in. Yes, let V be a point in Rn with norm V less than R so that C plus V must belongs to that n ball. Yeah. How it belongs to n ball I have shown you with the sketch also. Okay. Let me write the textbook definition of derivatives. Total derivative of functions of many variables. Okay. Definition total derivative. The function is said to be differentiable at C if there exists a linear function Tc from Rn to Rm such that f of C plus V equal to f of C plus Tc of V plus norm V into error of V, where error tends to 0 as V tends to 0. Okay, let me write this to be some statement number 3. Okay, this 3 is called, this 3 is called Taylor's first order Taylor's formula. First order Taylor's formula. Is it okay? The linear function is called total derivative. The linear function TC is called total derivative, is called total derivative of F and C. Okay, this is the definition of total derivative. Any doubt with the definition? You can ask. So while defining the total derivative, we have just made use of the total derivative defined in case of one variable function with the help of Taylor's formula. And here what is the total derivative? Total derivative is this TC obtained with this statement number 3 and is called as Taylor's formula. It's called as Taylor's formula. Now what remains to check? It remains to check whether this total derivative gives us the continuity or not, or how to find out the total derivative. In the next lecture we will check whether this total derivative gives us the continuity or not, and surely this total derivative is giving us the continuity of the given function. Okay, if you have any doubts on today's lecture, you can ask me. It seems there is no doubt on today's lecture. Then we will stop for today. Thank you for being with me for this lecture.